music here.
Here we
A
go.
little bit of a delay.
Nah, man, music is not working tonight, man. So we're just walking. I don't know what's going with our theme song, man. It's not theming.
It's not theming. I don't know what it is either.
It's not theming, man. But anyway, so we're here. Welcome to another episode of Above Average Black Men. Yours truly, Chris Pinder Sr.
Chris Jr. Again, always here to empower, inspire, and uplift the community through conversation.
Devin Pender here to remind y'all to like, follow, and subscribe and share. Interact with us. We're on Podbeam, Instagram, YouTube, Apple Music. We everywhere.
Everywhere. Spotify. I probably just said Spotify, but you know.
Well, I'm trying to say, why you always say your last name, man?
Why?
He always says his whole name.
Yeah.
Well, I just find it interesting. Anyway. At least you didn't say your middle initial. Yo, Wayne, what's going on? Wayne's already in, man. Tonight's a hot topic because I've been talking about this, asking people's opinions on different things, and this topic is all over the place. It's all over the place, man. And is parenthood, is respect earned or given? And what I mean by that is, should you just give your parents respect? Be careful your answers. Should you just give your parents respect because they're your parents? Or do you think parents have to earn respect? And where it came from was because a lot of times when I work with young people, they say this about other adults that, you got to earn my respect. I'm just not going to respect you out the chute.
Yeah.
It's like you got to earn my respect. And from when I grew up, it was different. You respected your elders. There was no ifs, no asterisks, no, that was it. You respected your elders.
Yeah. It was funny is like even with how we posed instead of the question, like I think a lot of people were like, ready to have this conversation or debate or topic. I certainly was anxious to hear, your thoughts or opinion on it.
You want me to actually go first?
Because, I think one thing that I'm aware of is that times have certainly changed, but then I don't feel like it has too much in the sense, like, because I'm leaning towards, like, I think respect is earned. Like,
no, not with parents. No.
How does a child just come out the womb knowing naturally, like, all right, this is my mother and father, and
I can't say what I want to say because
and you want to know why? No, you spare the rod, spoil the child. You know why the rod is there? Because it teaches you respect and so many other things, like to let you know.
Well, see, even that scripture is misquoted, man. The scripture is misquoted.
You put them in line.
It don't mean you're supposed to like.
Impressed by the quoted scripture.
You like it?
You're not supposed to pummel your kid. Every kid doesn't need that. So it's not about you're supposed to just pound your kids, man. And we say that when we use the scripture. But anyway, I disagree. I think as parents, I think you should respect your parents. I think that's a natural given. I don't think it should be earned because at that point, when is it earned? Because when you're 16, when you're 20, when you're 21, and I think too many times we don't appreciate parents. And your mom and I were talking about this last night.
Your parents don't act like parents. You see that a lot.
But I mean in general. But like your mom and I were talking about last night. Technically I'm an orphan. Both my parents are dead. And especially this time of year, it's tough for me. This time of year is hard. And my parents were perfect with my parents. And I get that there's some parents out there who may be a little interested. But to me, when you're disrespectful to your parents, it says more about you than your parents. It does. Because I'm not saying that you have to put them up there and idolize them, but that is your mom or your dad.
See, you want to know why I'm on the other side? Because you have so many parents nowadays who want to be their
child. Man, Wayne, want
to be their child's friend.
Yeah.
And you get looked at more as a friend than an actual parental figure. And then wonder how and where does a child learn just the natural instinct of, this is my father, this is my mother, I should respect them, when your mother and father is treating you like their peer.
But you're going to be...
You know what I mean? Like that's,
you gonna be
I think, no, because that's where you see,
I agree with you.
See some of these kids acting crazy because they don't respect their parents. Why? Because they view themselves or see themselves at the same level as them.
And I'm not disagreeing with you, but that's still, it doesn't make it right. This
where do they learn it?
But this doesn't make it right because you learn. Is when we are born with an innate ability to know right from wrong. We are all given that. We choose to do right or wrong. We do. We choose to do right or wrong. And I hear what you say, but they're not living in a cave by themselves. They don't see other child parent relationships because they do see children or others who respect their parents. It's different if they were like nobody in the whole community. Okay, you don't see any differences. You don't see, I get it, but you are exposed to that. So at some point you got to make a choice. Is it the right thing to do, or do I just continue to do this? And I'm not. I agree with everything you said. Some parents make it extremely difficult, but to me, it doesn't alleviate the child to disrespect their parents.
But even when you're saying that, you're looking on the outside and looking at that, it's like, man, my mom and dad did nothing like that. Like I'm sure came across his parents who they smoking, busting it up with their kids. Like listen to this. This weekend, and then you want me to sit back and be like, hey, that's my dad. Let me listen. Let me take everything you say serious. Like, but when you acting just like my friend that I'm in class with every day. Like, and that's where I think it's like a little bit skewed in this idea of like, I don't know. Back then, it was certainly where people believed in that and feeling like, and I was certainly a product of that. Respecting my adults and my parents, but like. Just kind of looking at how things are right now, it's like you can see why some kids act and lash out the way they do because their parents are children. And it's like they act like, again, they want to be their friends.
But it's still not right. Like the thing you sent me with T.I.
Yeah.
And I watched it. I watched it several times. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I watched it several times. He old enough to know better, man. And even all the trash he was talking, come on, man. If it wasn't for his dad being who he is, you wouldn't even be relevant.
Yeah,
but so I hear you. But he knows right from wrong at that stage of the game. Regardless of, I hear everything you say, and I agree with you. But at that stage of the game, you know right from wrong. Mm-hmm. At that stage of the game, and when you have grown men talking back to their moms or grown men beating their dads, so that better at that stage of the game. I'm not talking about a 2-year-old.
But that's like, where does the switch come or change it if it's always been that relationship with them forever? You know what I mean? Like, how am I instantly make that switch if we just been friends?
It's called being a human being, though. It's just. That's I get it. It is realistic because even if you choose to do wrong, and that happens every day, and I don't know why they do. They know right from wrong. They know this is. I need to have. They choose to act that way, but they know that's their dad, that's their mom. They know that, and they have the ability to make a choice, right or wrong, left or right. They do. They choose to go whatever way they choose to go. I don't know why, and I'm not going to sit here and say I know why, but I do think, you asked me my opinion, you asked me to go first. Mm-hmm. I think children should be. I go on, and this is a different topic. I say the same thing in a relationship. You should never disrespect your partner. They may disrespect you, but you don't have to go there. You choose to go there. You choose to make the choice. Your emotions push you, whatever. And I think it's the same thing with kids. At some point, they get older and they have to realize, like, yo, this ain't cool. I'm not saying they're going to grow up and get instantly respect them because you're 100% right. Like T.I., I'm sure that wasn't the first rant he had. His son, I'm sure that they just, this was like full built. This was like full tilt. This time.
I was about to say, I think he in that situation, like he was lashing out.
Yeah,
there's definitely been plenty of things before then. Some of T.I.'s other children can like even second or back what he's saying in terms of parents. His parents never been there. They was raised by their grandparents. Like all that stuff they was doing for the show was purely for the show. Yeah. Right. So it's like, that's what I think, saying. Right. And I think that's where he was lashing out in other ways. But again, that's your parents not there. Do you want to come in and like act like God? You think that you raised this guy, and now you just like, all right, I'm here. I'm your dad. I'm your mom.
But I'm not disagreeing though. But at the same
it's hard to garner and get that
But the same token, you respect enough to take their money. You don't mind taking their money, and I'm talking about him in particular, enjoying the wealth, enjoying the name.
He's a child.
So no, he's a child. No. So, but I'm just saying, I think at some point we know right from wrong. Wayne had an interesting point. He said that you teach it from a baby. So, and I agree with him, but I agree with you that there are some parents who don't. But I also think at some point in time, if you're being disrespectful, and you can choose. How do you move forward?
I don't think so.
It's you always know. You may think it's justified, but you do.
You don't, because then everybody would be just these outstanding. Like,
no, that's not true. No, that's not true. Because some people still going to choose. They know they're being disrespectful. They still going to choose to be disrespectful. It's like it's some of the kids when you work with some of the kids. They know they're being disrespectful.
I think
they just choose to keep doing it.
And blindly ignorant people out here. Like it's just that's.
Yeah, but you still. I think See, blindly is when you like settle, but when you like blatantly going in and somebody says, "Okay, don't call me," and you keep calling me that, now you're doing it on purpose, and you choose to continue to do that. You choose to continue to do that, man. And it's the same thing to me. I just think, and I'm not, again, I agree with you. There's some parents out there who are just not good parents, and maybe shouldn't be parents. But there's parents out there who do what they're supposed to do and try to raise their kids the right way, and their kids are just still disrespectful. They just downright
some people who
disrespectful.
don't know what bad is. Like,
Yeah.
I think we're just making this assumption that
And I think
people know right from wrong.
I just think in today's age, it's a little different because, like you were saying, like it's different when you can see a parent on Instagram or on Facebook and you see the real them. You know what I mean? Like I could go on and see a mom doing this, a dad doing something crazy, smoking on Instagram.
Yeah,
How,
like
how as a child, if I was
dad.
that dad's child, how would I respect
You doing
that?
the same
if
thing
they're-
as me.
Well, I'm gonna share what Wayne says, and I'm gonna say that he says having a relationship with your kid is great. You have to show them love and knowing the difference between friendship and parenting. And I agree. But then he said not true, so I don't know what the not true is for. So I can come back. No, but to your point, and again, I want to reiterate, I agree with you. But Devin, you know that that's still not right. You know that that's not right. That's like if your parents doing something illegal, you know it's illegal. Now at that point you make a choice. Do you continue to do it or you don't continue to do it? There's people out there who have parents like that and choose to do well. They choose to do the right thing. And then there's some who follow the footsteps. So they're on both sides of the fence. But I also know as human beings, we are born with the innate ability to choose to do right or wrong. Now, I don't know why some choose what path, but we do have the ability to know right from wrong. We all do. Now, we may accept it. We may think everybody's wrong because that's the norm that we're doing, but we all get to choose. And I think when it comes to parent-children relationship, I think children should respect their parents. I don't think there's any exceptions to the rule. I just think you do. Now, there's levels. I'm not saying you kowtow and everything, but, no son should be beating up his dad. And if your dad attack you or something, but I mean, just because he can, cussing his mom out because he didn't like the way he was raised. I just don't agree with that. I just don't.
I mean, and again, I'm thinking of just different scenarios. I'm not thinking about like the parents that are trying to do what is right and they like just trying to make it on their own. Because there's certainly those instances. But again, there are probably a lot more than we've ever seen before. I just seen a video online with some lady twerking at a concert holding a baby. It's like, what are you doing? She's supposed to respect that. That little girl going to wake up, or that little girl going to grow older and see her mom like had her at a concert dancing just because she want to have a good time. And you want me to respect that decision?
No, I didn't see. No, this is where we get into it. I didn't say respect the decision. I didn't say respect the decision. And I'm not saying that you had to say they're parent of the year, but I still think there's a certain level of respect due or not. Like for instance, to me, if by chance maybe you disassociate yourself, maybe you don't have a lot of contact, you keep it a mutual respect, but that's no excuse to be disrespectful. It's not. That's no excuse to be disrespectful. You know what, Mom? I don't appreciate the way you raised me. You made some poor choices, and because of your poor choices, whatever. But to me, that's still no excuse to be disrespectful.
I mean, and maybe I'm looking at it too in terms of like not saying you have to be disrespectful, but you don't necessarily have to respect how somebody's or what somebody's doing if it's not right.
But we're talking about two different things.
And that's what I just said.
Respect what somebody's doing versus disrespecting the person.
And that's where, but I think, all right, the question is, do you like earn respect or give respect? Again, it's like
But it's not about earn respect based on what somebody does. It's about the person. Mm-hmm. So you just, to me, I
some
don't
people
think.
they don't do a good job at garnering or like needing that respect. Like it's like you respect. Yeah, especially all right. That if you,
so you think
listen, so think about this. I'm about to go see a doctor or somebody like that, and if you hear like bad reviews from somebody and you see that they're unprofessional, I'm sure you're going to not necessarily respect them as that doctor. You know what I mean?
But that's different from disrespecting the person.
I'm not just.
That's different from disrespecting the person. But now I'm disrespecting the person. You bum, you trash. That's disrespecting the person. That's a difference.
I'm saying I totally agree. Like being that disrespectful, don't be blatantly outright disrespectful, but in regards to like had up. People
So-
they aren't successful.
So
with
if
that.
you think as a parent that you have to earn it, okay, how do you earn it? Because the same token that you're saying all these things that's outlandish. So what happens when somebody being raised still doesn't agree with what the parent is doing? Even though the parent can be doing the right thing, but in this kid's eyes, hey, I didn't get this new Kung Fu, this new G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu grip. That's just disrespectful. My parents didn't treat me right. Dude down the street got all this new stuff. I didn't get the new stuff. So at what point do we determine what's earning it?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not saying that anything is like acceptable in regards to kids being disrespectful towards their parents in any way. But at some point in time, again, like I think is the easiest thing is to point out that example of parents who don't act as parents should. And it's like, how can we sit here and just say, how should they respect them? What should they look at them as? What figure if they aren't acting like a parent?
As human beings. Okay, you may not be the best dad in the world, but guess what? You still my father. And as my father, I got to say, you know what?
I'm a dog dad. I'm a step dog dad.
No, I ain't a parent. No, but so, I mean, for instance, I know when I sit down and I talk to some parents, and in my mind, let's be completely transparent. I'm saying, how did you have a kid? I do, because I hear what you're saying. When I sit down with a mom, we were joking today. Rosie, who used to work for me, we were joking today, because I remember, especially when I was working in Camden, these moms be getting their kids to try to set us up. Get his number. My mom wants your number. They was like, yo, really? I'm like, come on. Yeah, this kind of stuff. He said, oh, my mom, that's a nice car you drive. Yeah. So and in my mind, I'm saying like, yo, what kind of person would do that? But when I met, I was just as respectful. Hey, because I still, even though it was crazy and outlandish, she didn't deserve me to disrespect her.
You taught me those. I'm even just thinking about it from my perspective growing up. It's like, you taught me those things. You taught me how to be respectful to you and mom and just adults in general. And we see probably even more so, like, kids have a lack of respect for authority in adults.
For all, even, I mean, and all these, some of these kids today, they disrespect adults. It has nothing to do with just their parents. They just have a blatant disrespect for adults, disrespect for authority. So they just have disrespect for adults. Maybe it stemmed from the parents, but that's my point. You can't just take it over and say, now I'm going to blankly disrespect everybody. Hey, but if somebody call you boo, you ready to fight. So I think we got to, and it is teaching, is leading by example, but also has to be a level of accountability. I go back to my original question. What does earning respect look like then? Because everybody's gonna have a different definition. And for me, if I really want to be disrespectful, I'm gonna be disrespectful because you didn't buy me something and because you bought something because somebody else got something. There's so many things you can pick to say, well, man, that's in your opinion, that's not fair. So you can turn it as a sign of, hey, they don't earn my respect. Maybe dad got to work 4 jobs and somebody down the street only working 1 job. So what? Do I disrespect my dad now because he ain't making the money I think he should make to get the things he needs when he's trying his best?
I think there's a number of reasons why probably disrespect is at an all-time high. And I think, again, certainly there's a lack of nuclear family and just the aspect of community. Like, we don't have that reinforcement of, like, other adults being able to hold people accountable that aren't necessarily your kids. Like, that's not a thing anymore. And then just you see a lot more single parenting. I think that's also another thing where you kind of
go there.
You do. It's like that split in the family is the truth. And then like I think sometimes you see like the infighting, that lack of respect towards one parent just directed at another parent, and like it just kind of. And that's coming from, I'm watching, just an example, I'm watching how my mom talks to my dad or listening to what she says about my dad. So I'm just not going to respect him. So I think that, again, it's like those parts of things out there where.
But it's still a choice. But you still have a choice.
But it's being taught.
Yeah, but you still have. But at some point, you wake up and you realize you have a choice. Now, do I continue that pattern or do I stop it?
How do you know the choices if you never seen
Because
them?
you out in the world, you do see it. You
them.
may not see it in your house, but you see how other people treat people.
You can acknowledge and say that people never leave their block sometimes. You know?
Yeah, but it's impossible now to never leave your block as a kid because you got to go to school. You do get outside your community.
You on the bus, you walk back and forth to school.
If you're the kid now.
But what if you also see other kids that are disrespecting?
Yeah, you will, but you'll also see people doing it the right way, and then you like I said, you have a choice. You choose if you want to continue this pattern or go in the pattern that other people are going. That's a choice we all have to make. You know, do I want to act like my friends who are hanging on the corner and selling drugs and doing this stuff, or do I want to go over here and do what I got to do because I'm trying to have a better future? You make a choice. So I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying we all have the ability to choose.
Yeah, I mean, some people don't necessarily see, again, like those options or the better future. And like, we hear kids, they celebrate making it to 18 and 21. You know what I mean? So they don't look at having like sometimes these grandiose options or choices.
Now, how do
people product of their environments?
I got a question. How, like from a kid's side, how are you supposed to respect a parent if you can see that the parent don't even respect themselves
or others? Like they just don't have a sense of respect.
It's like you said, like we do things that you taught us just like you showed us that.
Yeah.
I know you work with a kid where you've seen them be disrespectful to you or another person, and then that parent comes up there and you're like, oh.
That's where they get it.
You know what? And you're 100% right. But you know what? Then I work with the kid to show the kid a different way. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't, and people always come to you. How do you get the kid to, I'll walk into a place and it's funny because, some people, they say, hey, the Kool-Aid man. Because I walk in, the kids will come running because they'll come in, they'll give me fist bumps. And there's kids who kind of, when they see me, they calm down. And that's because you build a relationship. And I know their homes are not the way it should be. But my thing is to give them a choice. They can choose because they have seen it. They have seen somebody treat them with respect. Now they got to choose. Do I want to go this way? Do I want to go that way? And I still stand by what I said. I think when you disrespect somebody, it's more about to me, I think it's just as bad on you as it is on that person. Like I know if I see, like I never hit a woman. I never cussed out a woman. That's just something I just never did. One, because my father would have killed me. But two, I know to idiots, it didn't look bad. But the people who respected me, it looked bad. I'm disrespecting myself.
Yeah.
Nobody's sitting there saying, well, we don't give them a pass because, nah, you act like an idiot, dude. Whether we think is justified or not, I think respect is a thing that should be given. Now, some people will push your buttons and show that maybe you feel like they don't deserve respect. That's a different conversation. But I don't think you should walk into a room and decide I'm not going to respect anybody until they earn it. I just disagree with it. I'm not saying that's what you said, but I just totally disagree with that. And that's what I hear from a lot of young people. Man, they got to earn my respect. Yo, so you disrespectful until they earn it?
Not necessarily. I don't think just because.
No, I mean that's what a lot of young people say. They say, "Look, hey man,
I'm gonna disrespect you just because."
Well, they do.
I think it's more so. I'm gonna respect you at the level of what you deserve. So if you come in and you,
but if you just meet me, how do you know? How do you know what I deserve if we just meet?
We starting at zero.
But they don't start at zero. They talking when you talking. They talking back and all kind of stuff. And you got to earn my respect. They come out of pocket. They're out of pocket to begin with.
How do they know that they're being disrespectful?
Man, you can't. See, that's what's wrong with these kids now. We make up a lot of excuses.
I'm not making
but they know they're. And when you talk to them, they know they're being disrespectful. Now, some of them think it's cool. Some of them do it because they're showing off for their friends. But they know. But they know they're being disrespectful. They know it.
I think it's funny.
I think it's more so the friends thing. You want to show off.
But that doesn't. But that means they still know though. That is not like I'm just oblivious, I'm ignorant. No, they know that they're being disrespectful. They choose to do so because of one, like you said, showing off for their friends, or two, I'm making people laugh, or three, I can't do the work, or four, because this is true. I will agree with this. If I am in a hopeless situation and it's a proven formula. But it still comes back to we have a choice. And I think there needs to be a level of accountability. And I'm not saying you, but we got to stop making excuses with people who do crazy stuff. Your father did something to you 40 years ago. And I'm not dismissing it. You went through some pain. I get it. But why you take it on somebody now? Why you take it on your kids now? Because your father disrespected you. So now you just, at some point, the cycle has to break. At some point, the cycle has to break. At some point, somebody in the family got to say, you know what, I'm just not going to do it anymore. Regardless of what my dad did, I'm not going to do it. I love my dad to death. And, I told this time he was always tough. My dad wasn't the perfect dad. There were some things he did that was wrong. But you know what? I'm going to correct it when it comes to my kids. I didn't sit there and say, well, man, because he did it to me, I'm going to do it. At some point, somebody has to say, just like I wasn't perfect. Hopefully you'll take some of the things that I didn't do so well and you won't do them.
Yeah.
So it's just like being disrespectful. Just because it's there doesn't mean you have to continue in that pattern. And we have a choice based on whatever we can knock and dock it, whatever you want to say. We have a choice. Every day we can make a choice of what we're going to do. Right or wrong, turn left, turn right, go up or down. We have a choice.
So this is my thing. So you probably have seen kids, or even growing up with us, like you see them around their parents and like the things that they say or get away with that, if we ever fixed our mouths to say or do any of those things. Yeah. But why is it we look at that as like being disrespectful, but in that instance, they just kind of accept those things and that's okay?
Because you said it, and it was funny because Wayne said it, because I'm trying to be your friend. Because now we're going to be friends. And when you treat as a parent, and I use the same example. I use this when I was talking to a parent a couple years ago. I used this when I was talking to parents a couple years ago. The parent was like, well, I was talking to him, man, and I told him, give me a cell phone. He started laughing because you treat him as your friend. You been treated your friend all this time, so now you're trying to impose discipline. If I'm like, I can't go take my friend's cell phone. So my friend gonna look at me like, well, you my friend, give me your cell phone. So your point is because the way they started the relationship. Now that kid at some point has to figure out, do I can continue that way or do I not continue that way? They got to make a choice.
Why should the kid? Why?
Because you won't be successful in life unless you do.
Why?
Because you can't go on your job cussing out your boss. You can't go on your job talking smack to people. And nowadays, you probably might not make it to a job because you can't. You cannot be successful with that attitude.
Them kids not thinking that far.
No, but I didn't say at that moment. But at some point, you got to break the cycle.
It's people who
at some point you do
go
realize.
Listen to their boss, but they don't respect their mom or dad.
Yeah, but then that's most of the time that's not true. Most of the time, if you start out with disrespect, most people carry the pattern. But even then, okay, that's even worse. I'm respecting my boss who does nothing for me.
They pay the checks, but then they feel like this person hasn't done anything.
But your boss ain't paying you nothing. He's working for a company who paying you.
I'm just
your
saying
boss gets a facilitator.
The psychology behind it for those people. It's like, all right, I'm getting a paycheck.
You need, and I go a step further. Again, this is a different show. I think that's the problem. We sit here and we think we get to vote who we should respect and who we shouldn't respect. And I think a lot of what we see in our society now is that reason. We decide who on the street we're going to respect for just randomly. In a relationship, we disrespect women or whatever. It has to stop. At some point, you got to say, you know what? I just need to walk away from the situation. Somebody's being disrespectful for me. I need to disconnect myself. I need to maybe not date this person anymore. Maybe I don't need to live with this person. I need to put myself in a better environment where I'm not now. Not only am I not disrespecting her, I'm not disrespecting myself for stooping that low and being out of character. That's a choice. Now we get to choose, and everybody got to make their own choices, But why be in a situation that's going to continuously, and I'm talking about relationships when we get back to parenting, where you forced to be disrespectful. Now, if I go back to parenting, it's still your parents. I know what you're saying about everything they did and how bad they were, but you know what? They're still your parents, man. They still responsible for you being here, right, wrong, or indifferent. And I think you get to choose whether you want to be disrespectful to them. There's one thing that's okay. I don't like the way I was raised. I'm going to disassociate myself, maybe keep a distance. But you don't have to beat them up, cuss at them, and I'm exaggerating, spit on them. You don't have to do that. That's a choice. That's above and beyond.
Yeah, I think, again,
that's above and beyond.
That's the extreme side of it, I think. Where I'm just saying where...
But that's what's happening.
Maybe it's that person where it's just like, you know what? I'm not going to talk to or reach out to my mom or dad because, like, I feel like every time they take things to hear, or like they might not even feel, you don't feel like your parents respect you. So it's just like, especially for some people that's maybe they're getting into that phase of adulthood, and they're trying to figure it out and navigate.
Not disagree.
Not here. We don't have that problem, guys.
I'm
just saying, like, but there's people out there like that.
But how do you handle it though? You can handle it in a respectful way.
Yeah.
You can have all those emotions, have all those feelings without cursing out your parents, spitting on your parents, beating up your parents. You can. You have every right to feel that way. I would never tell whether I agree to disagree.
So
I would never say, "Don't you feel like that?"
You cannot respect them. I think that's
you should respect. I think you should respect. I think, and if you don't respect, I think if you choose
disrespectful,
I don't think it's earned. So I go back to the real question. I think it should be a given. But I also think even if you get to the point where you feel like you don't respect them, you don't have to disrespect them. You can not respect somebody without disrespecting them. You can say,
I think that's what I'm trying to get at.
I don't respect you for what you do, the way you. But if you don't have to be disrespectful to the person.
Yes. I agree with that.
And I think that's the problem we have now, that people go so far with that they, you see it on the news all the time, cussing out moms, beating them, parents. I have parents telling me, well, I'm afraid of them. I'm afraid of her. Come on, man.
Afraid of them?
Yeah, you got parents who are afraid. You got parents who are afraid of their kids, man, who just don't because it got buck wild, situation got out of hand. The kid is so disrespectful. The kid is saying what I do to you and all that stuff, and they're afraid of the kid. I mean, that's happening more than you think.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's a number of factors that why we are starting to see that on the rise, like where it's a lack of respect.
But it's also a number. That's why we have so many people incarcerated, because they get so accustomed to showing disrespect and being disrespectful, they think they can do it to anybody. Yeah. So they just keep doing it, and it gets out of pocket. So, somebody told me a story today or yesterday I thought was crazy. They said, they had a friend who his mom found a gun under his mattress. So he called. So and he was disrespecting his mom. Mom said, "Don't bring that stuff in here." So she called the cops. The cops show up. They run the gun. The gun had a couple bodies on it. Son got locked up. And the son, and the son was like, he wasn't. First he was angry, then he wasn't angry because he disrespected his mom. His mom asked him, "Don't bring that stuff in here." So I mean, and again, you don't have to respect somebody, but you don't have to be disrespectful. And I think that's the difference what we're talking about here. You can say, and maybe you don't respect your parents, but you don't have to be disrespectful. But I still go back to my thing. What constitutes earning respect? And what constitutes? Now you went to the far right. You went to the far right. The crazy stuff they were doing.
Learning respect.
All right.
Maybe that's more so where I feel not necessarily earning it, but learning it. I think that's more so what I'm leaning to or trying to get to is that where do you learn that at if you don't see that around you? Like if you grow up in an environment where your parents aren't being respectful or requiring it. Yeah. Your friends' parents aren't being respectful or requiring it. Your friends aren't requiring it. As a child, yeah, you can understand or see right from wrong, but how do you model that? We grow up off of what we see and take in. So it's just like if you're not seeing or getting enough of that, where are you learning that at? Well, I think even your example of saying like the kids like kind of acting a certain way in school and like testing you in a sense and like giving you a hard time, like that, it's like pack of hyenas. Like they just kind of all get together and it's just like what they do now because that's just like that's what they know. Like that's what we do. They don't see anything else. Like see somebody just treating with somebody with respect just because they're an adult in this space. Again, I think it's something that it needs to be learned, and maybe that's where I'm like earned. Maybe not that far going into it, but definitely they need to see it, and we need to teach it.
All right, it's two comments I want to share because I think they're both important. I grew up without my parents. I don't disrespect them in any way. My mom is still living. My dad passed 45 years ago. I'll do anything for my mom. So he grew up in a situation where mom wasn't there. And he had every right.
What adult figures did you have around that?
But what we're talking about is how people
you learned it from somebody.
But we're talking about examples of why people are disrespectful to their parents, and that's one because some people feel like, my mom wasn't there, or my dad wasn't there, regardless of how they were raised. They just feel like, you shouldn't have, for whatever reason. Sometimes they don't know the facts, but I deal with a lot of times in the fatherhood program. You got people who are angry because dad abandoned them 45 years ago, so they treating their kids like that. I deal with people in rehab who are trying to hide it in drugs. because hey, I so it is different reasons. And somebody said, y'all can refer to this because it's right up your alley. These kids are from the cancel culture children. They don't even speak to their parents any longer. So
Right, I'm done. Like they just like as soon as they do something, like the parents are just like, I'm done with you. Work with my hands. Don't talk to me. I'm staying in my room. Lock the door.
See, and that's the problem because first of all, you're not gonna be living in my house talking about you done. You ain't talking to me. That's problem number one. That ain't happening. Number two, that's my door. You lock it. So when you came home from school, there would be no door. That door would be off the hinges.
Then some parents is going up there knocking. Mm-hmm. Excuse me.
You're all right.
Please. I'll talk to you later.
But and see, and I get it. And again, but I truly believe that we all know right from wrong. And even though we may not always have the best role models, and I'm not saying we may not all get it at the same time, but at some point in our life, we do learn, or we should learn. Whether it's 18 or whether it's 28, at some point in our lives, we should understand what respect and disrespect looks like. But we all have to. My kids in after school program, laugh, joke. I ain't walking around there hitting women, talking joke, talking. I try to model that for them because I get exactly what you're saying. And a lot of those kids will come around because they may start out being a little disrespectful, and then when they figure out the game changes. I have kids who our first initial meetings is like, man, and now they run up and hug me or give me a pound every time they go out their way to speak to me, and it took time to get there. But and they have teachers, not all teachers, but they do have teachers who teach them respect. And they got some who don't teach them. But the point I'm making is, how do we, that whole thing about it needs to, you said learn, but I'm going back to what we have here, because I hear people say that. How do you earn it? Because what's the definition of earn it? What is the level? What do you have to do to earn it? It's opinionated because if all of a sudden, if you don't do what I think you should do, is that a reason to be disrespectful? Because now you're not earning it. I asked you for some new sneakers and you didn't give me new sneakers. Your mom and I was out walking around Black Friday, and they're throwing fits. Like that. First of all, I would never take my kid on Black Friday, but I'm just saying, people who want, who they just gotta have stuff, man, and so if I can't get it, does that mean now I'm not earning your respect because you want to respect me because of what I buy for you? Because you think I'm supposed to put you in LeBron James or whatever the latest gear is, and I'm not. And it doesn't have to be because I don't choose to. Maybe I can't afford to. So is that not? So is that a reason to be disrespectful? How do you find the line?
Again, I feel like that even with that, I think those are things that we grew up. We were taught certain things. Like we had conversations. You showed us respect and how even in the moment where it's like, man, I want these Jordans. Well, Jordans cost a lot of money. We ain't got it like that. But we can do these things. You want to do these things? We can say do you know what I mean? It was like, I don't know. Again, one of those instances where it was learned more so not maybe
remember the dollar store Christmas?
Yeah.
That's my favorite one.
Yeah, I do remember that.
but the point I'm making is I still think that that's one of the problems we have in our society is there's a lot of people who think that it should be earned, even with their parents, that they don't respect their parents. They don't respect their parents. They don't respect teachers. They don't respect authority. They just have no respect, man. And then it comes to how do I earn it? Do I earn it by just giving you what you want? Do I earn it, not opposing you in any way? How do I earn your respect? And I go a step further. You see that in politics right now. You talking about grown people who just blatantly disrespecting each other. Simply because they don't agree because somebody's red and somebody's blue. Not any real knowledge of each other, but just because. It happens all the time. And right now, when you got this war, the Palestinians and the Jews are fighting, and you got people in this country taking sides. There's a lady who works in one of our schools, nicest lady. She works with kids, does everything, Caucasian lady. They got to have a police officer in school because somebody did send Palestine, somebody sent a death threat to her house. That's totally disrespectful. And I think that's the problem because there is no clear-cut definition of respect anymore. Derek said it. This whole cancel culture thing is become reality for so many people now. And it's okay to be disrespectful now because not you, but people make excuses for them. Oh, they were just no. It's still no excuse to be disrespectful to your parents. I did not agree with everything my dad did. I did not agree with everything my mom did. Now it was different then because my dad was like, "Yo, I knocked the crap out of you and DHS come get you after they wake you up." So no, but it's still. I still think we
that's respect right there.
Is it respect or is it? I think it's part respect, but it's also fear.
Yeah.
And I think,
Same
but
thing.
no, it's not the same thing. But see, that's the problem. We
That's
do
what
think
you
it's the
look
same thing. We do think it's the same thing. I know you were joking, but that's the problem. And you got a generation of people who are disrespectful. They're just totally disrespectful. They don't say excuse me. They don't say thank you. I always tell Mackenzie say thank you, and people look at me like I'm crazy. You say thank you.
Mm.
I don't care if you accept something, somebody offer you something, you say thank you. You say no thank you. It's a sign of respect. I know now if I say ma'am to somebody, oh man, I got to be ready to get into a fist fight.
Yeah, I'm just thinking.
You open a door for somebody now. A lot of times you hold the door for a young lady. She looks like, okay, what you up to?
And like if it's not required at home, and these are quote unquote your parents, then why should I take that out to the world?
You sticking with that story, man.
That's the truth. Like,
you
just said it's a level of respect for your parents.
But at some point,
if this is the top figure that I look at in my life, she or he don't require that.
But at some point, you got to break the cycle. At some point, you realize it's wrong. I'm not saying
I'm not thinking about a cycle.
I'm not saying as a child. I'm not saying you walk out the house as a child and it changes automatically. But at some point, you realize that that's not right. It may take some longer. It's different for everybody. It can be different. Some people, they go out, they go in the world, and they realize somebody pulls them aside, somebody shows them. Some people may take 10 years. Some people may take them 10 years. Unfortunately, some people never get it. They still talk. They still talk bad about their parents. They still talk. They still don't know how to be respectful. And I know people. There's somebody right now who I was laughing because I said this is my nemesis because he just he always want to question you and challenge you everything you say. And sometimes he's downright disrespectful. Now, to your point, I don't even think he realizes because he has that arrogant that's in his DNA, But I'm pretty sure enough people have told him. I'm pretty sure enough people, but he chooses not to choose, not to change. It's a choice.
I'm thinking, like for instance, again, working with kids in the past, doing like summer school stuff and being in the inner city and again, you see stories, you hear stories. And I just remember one time, like, a little girl in particular, like, going off or wanting to go off on people, and just like her reasoning behind it, because her mom told her to do that.
Yeah. Okay, but
my mom said, if you ever feel like you get disrespected.
I'm gonna give you the flip side of that, and I'm not gonna say names. There was a kid that you were, and what I'm talking about. It was a kid you grew up with that was a little older.
Need more.
When you were a little older, when you were in high school, y'all went to high school together. And I remember that people just had just because he was older and he looked a little more mature, that people just automatically assumed he was just this bad kid. He was I'm not going to say the name, but they did. And it was almost, to me, it was like disrespectful because you didn't know anything about this kid. You just saw him, looked at him because he looked older than the rest of the kids, carried himself different than the rest of the kids, and that's what I'm talking about, how we just jump to conclusions. Out of conclusions, we become disrespectful, and we can't do that. And I know people to your point, based on your experiences because I knew kids like that. I knew kids who looked like that. I knew kids who acted like that, but that ain't that kid. Yeah. And that kid turned out to be one of the nicest kids. To this day, if I see him, mom, dad.
I mean, I'm saying again, what's that have to do with like the example I said? If
because
your mom is telling them
because that. I don't want to go into detail because that person shared how they didn't learn those things at home. They had to learn the things from different people. They learned it, but they learned it from different people. Yeah. So that's my point. Unless you live in a hole or a cave, it comes down to a choice. Do I take in what somebody else has shown me? Do I look at it and say, hey, I can be like this, or do I choose to continue to be disrespectful? Just because your mom or dad
go to school in the suburbs,
but just because your mom or dad, I grew up in the hood, and I had people in the hood who got stories, but they weren't disrespectful. And then I had some who didn't have any stories, and they were disrespectful. And I had some who I look back on, we in elementary school, how they acted a certain way. By the time we got to high school, they didn't act the same way because something happened. They learned, okay, I can be different. I don't have to continue to be this way. They chose. You hit the proverbial fork in the road and you say, am I going to change and be a better person? Or I'm going to keep doing this way because my mom did that.
Even for the example that you're giving, they had, I mean, you've been a figure in these stories for people to look at and be like, that's an example. But what about the countless other people who don't have that or see that?
But you want to tell me in their entire lives, they ain't going to come across nobody that's that disrespectful.
Some people don't leave the hood.
They got to go to school. They got to do. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying, but that may be the exception to the rule. But the average person,
kids that's giving you a hard time, they live together. They see each other every day. They do that in school. Then they doing the same thing outside of school. Like it's just that's the circle.
But they choose because there are teachers who are respectful. There are people who are respectful who trying to teach them respect. They choose to maintain that because of their friends.
It's 10 of us that act like this and one of him.
But it's not one. See, that's the trick they play on us to always say it's only one and make it appear like
10 to 1
and like it's in the market. But you still know right from wrong. If 10 people stealing, it's still wrong. I don't care if 20 people stealing. My father used to always tell me, he said, son, how many people in your class? And I would say 25. He said, let me tell you something, man. If I come up there and it only better be 24 people acting like a fool. You better be the one sitting like you got some sense. At some point in your life, you got to be the one to change. And everybody doesn't. So I'm not disagreeing with you. But and there may be an exception to the rule. But I find it hard to believe that somebody's going to go through life and never have an example of this to be respectful. I just find that really, I'm not saying it's impossible. I just find it hard to believe.
I don't think anybody's.
I just find it hard to believe.
They don't see people being respectful. Again, it's not being enforced. It's not a necessity.
But once you get exposed to something,
that's just, and honestly, even just thinking from a kid's perspective, they look at some of it. Oh, that's corny. Like,
but I'm gonna go back to what Wayne said.
Nutty.
But once you learn something, Chris, now there's a level of accountability.
Our lens and perspective.
No, I'm not. What I'm saying is, if I don't know something, that's ignorance.
Uh-huh.
But once I know something, if you got a kid who's never been exposed to it and he just, he thinks that's the norm, okay. I kind of disagree because I think we all know right from wrong. But okay, I give that to you. But you can't tell me that a lot of people, hundreds and thousands of people, are going to go through life and never get exposed to what it is to be respectful. They choose to be disrespectful. And some of them think it's cute. Some of them think it's downright cute. There's a lot of females who are disrespectful to men. And they think it's funny. They choose to be like that.
I mean, it's hard for me to kind of lean into knowing that there's right or wrong, because there's people who fully support things that are not right and believe that they're right. So they don't look at it as what they're doing is wrong.
I think you convince yourself.
People don't look at what they're doing as wrong.
You convince yourself at some point in life you may develop that. But even as you grow up, at some point in time we all have the ability to choose right from wrong. Now, to your point, some decide that wrong is going to be the norm. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm not disagreeing with that.
Wrong is the norm.
But it's still wrong. I'm not disagreeing with that, but it's still wrong. It doesn't make it right because 20 people are doing it. It doesn't make it right. If it's right, it's right. If it's wrong, it's wrong. If, the perfect example, if somebody says, if selling drugs is illegal, let's say selling drugs is illegal. And even though you do it for what you perceive as the right reason, it's still illegal. It's still wrong. No matter how you justify it, no matter slice it, no matter how you dice it, because the law says it's wrong. So if I get back to the same thing with disrespecting, at some point you're wrong for cursing out your mom. I get it. She may have broke your heart. She may not have been there. Dad may not have been there. I get all that. But at some point, man, they're human beings. And every human being, regardless of how, in my humble opinion, every human being, regardless of how bad we perceive them, deserve a level of respect. That's just my humble opinion. I do. I just don't think nobody deserves to be totally disrespected.
Respect Donald Trump.
And I think, but you know what? I say this all the time. I think he's an idiot, but you know what? People follow him. He has a way with people. He has a way with people. Mm-hmm. But I would never spit on him. I would never curse him out or anything like that. I don't believe in his ideologies. I don't believe none of that stuff. I don't believe in his politics. I don't. But that does not give me the right, and we talked about it. That's the problem with this country, even in politics.
You cannot respect him,
but even in politics. But my point is, but when you allow that to disrespect a person, that's different. And that's the problem. That's the problem we have in
okay
politics.
To disrespect the person.
I'm not saying you did, but that's the problem we're dealing with, though. Let's look at politics. Let's slide off the parent thing. We have that problem in politics right now, where because we don't agree on something political. That now I'm attacking you, I'm talking about you, I'm digging up dirt on you. I'm cussing you out, I'm trying to embarrass you. Why? We can disagree without me disrespecting you. I may not respect your politics. That's fine, but that's the problem. And now I take it back down to the parent thing. So you see the same thing in parents, and we shouldn't be. And I stand by what I said. Some people are going to disagree. I want to hear what somebody say out there. We shouldn't be cursing out our parents, man. We shouldn't be, definitely shouldn't be beating up our parents, man. We, waiting for our parents to get old so we can take advantage of them. That's crazy. That's crazy. Disconnect yourself. If you feel that bad, disconnect yourself. Walk away. Get involved in something else, man. But that's just because I got to tell you this now. If one of the things that I knew when I decided that I was not looking for a wife, or even a relationship, I watched how they treated their mom. I wasn't going to go out with somebody that was cursing out their mom, talking about that wasn't happening because I wasn't treating my parents like that. Mm-hmm. I looked at that. Because, especially when your mom and I made a decision, because if she was treating her parents like that, I know how she was going to treat my parents. So, to each his own. I just think it's a dangerous line, it's a slippery slope. It's a slippery slope when we say, it has to be earned. Well, naturally you can't agree with it because you ain't married.
No, because I think that's funny too. It's like you just say like, all right,
you not.
They can know right from wrong just because they have a type of relationship with their parents that automatically they're just going to treat everybody else.
No, it's a high probability. If you don't respect your own parents who've been in your house with, how do I know you're going to respect mine?
But they ain't been in the house.
But regardless, if you don't, how do I know you're going to respect mine? Suppose my parents do something you don't agree with.
Because you said they know right from wrong.
No. See, now you turn into a joke. But I'm saying, but yes, it is. It's just like it's. But no, we're not. That's not what we said. You try to run it together. We were talking about if somebody's mistreating their parents, which I totally disagree with. There's a high probability they're going to mistreat your parents. Is an exception to every rule.
I think I'm looking at it from the perspective of like, all right, what if your parent is not acting in a manner that, like, what if your parents being disrespectful to you? What if they not treating or acting if it's that relationship where, all right, I'm a mother or a father, I'm just talking to you like you Joe Smo off the street.
I may not respect, but there's a difference. I think respect somebody without cussing them out. I give a perfect example. I get to throw in my sports analogy. Debo Samuels for the front. He don't like the way James Bradbury plays. So he called him trash. He had to call him trash. He could have said, I don't think he's good at it. He chose those. So he chose to use those words. And he chose to stand on those words. That's disrespectful. And now you disrespecting a man. This ain't even about his skills. You disrespecting this dude now. So I'm saying that's what we have to be careful of. I don't have to respect you. I don't have to respect the way you do stuff. But I don't have to be disrespectful to you. There's a difference.
Yeah,
there's a distinct difference.
And I think that's where we probably even talk past each other a little bit sometimes. It's like, I don't agree with. Like, we use that example of T.I.'s son, like, being disrespectful.
That was crazy when I was watching that video.
Was wow.
Then he ended up choking.
That was wow. You shouldn't be disrespectful to that point where you feel like you want to curse him out or like you about to fight each other, even if you're.
He cursed his dad.
I didn't see that. It was crazy.
And the thing that really bothered me was the thing that bothered me because they knew it was being videotaped. That's the thing that really bothered me. That it became a public display of stupidity. Mm-hmm. Because they both knew now because they both were acknowledging that it was being taped. Because the son kept saying that everybody going to know everybody what Chris was talking about, and then the parents was like, you were at your grandmom's and you had a pacifier and they were they were now trying to embarrass him.
And that's what I'm saying. So what is that kid supposed to do?
Shut it down and walk away because he looked worse. He looked worse. I know he knows.
He's super emotional. He learned from just not having no direction in that moment. Yeah, like not
T.I. was like that.
no direction, just moving in this emotion. And then like again, if your dad and them supposed to be teaching you, your mom teaching you respect and how to move and handle things, they right there with him in the mix. Like rile him up. Like you said, they more jabs instead of even trying to like, all right, this.
Me, I'm like,
Who teaches him how to walk away?
Me, I'm not even.
The son has to walk away from the dad.
Somebody got to be.
15-year-old son got to be like, all right.
He should have been. He should have been. He should have been like, yo, why am I on airing my dirty laundry in public? And I agree, the dad should have. I'm not disagreeing. The dad should have. At 15, you ain't a child. The dad should have shut it down. The dad, they should not have been responding.
You were
not that immature at 15 years old where you were just dumb. Come on, let's not be real. You may not have been a rocket scientist when it came to life, but you were not that immature at 15. That was just dumb on both parts. And you're right. It should have been ultimately the parents' responsibility because even the mom started signing off on it. They should have shut it down. You know, they should be looking into the camera saying stuff. But the point I'm making is both sides are wrong. Both sides was wrong. But and when I look at it, the son was, to me, I was, because you spent the money, you accepted the money, you talk all this crap about the parent, but you took the money. You lived the lifestyle. You weren't wanting for anything. So now all of a sudden, you're adult now, you're at this adult age. Now we want to have this combative conversation. So come on, man. And then he didn't have to do it in such a manner. He could have been writing everything you said, but he didn't have to go. He didn't have to be on videotape. He had to be in the public. It looked like they were at a basketball game or something.
Right. It's a Falcons game.
Huh? Yeah, so I'm saying that wasn't the place for that. No. That wasn't the place. So he ended up looking like an idiot too. You know, and to your point, because I don't follow it, you know, everybody knew that they weren't the best parents. So now you to my point, now you were so disrespectful, you look disrespectful. Because everybody knew your parents were parents. Now people looking at you like, dude, why? Come on, man. And you can hear somebody in the background trying to talk them off the cliff. Trying to talk them down.
That's the result of your lack of parenting.
So that's going to be the excuse that you can take the rest of your life.
At some point, does a kid get
your lack of parenting?
That's going to be the excuse.
He got to grow up and he got to raise.
No. I think at some point, but at 15, you know, man, you can't with all the social media and all this stuff. You know what's going on. You know everything you say is going viral. You know when something like that happens, and you know it's magnified when you're famous. You know that. Yeah. So you understand that. So that you can't give me the thing that, you know, that he was just oblivious to everything. And he put on a show. He was putting on the show. He knew he was being filmed and he knew he was putting that stuff out there. So this wasn't
they got a podcast.
But that's my point. So this wasn't something where he just didn't know what he was doing. He knew what he was doing. He knew exactly what he was doing.
I didn't say that he didn't know what he was doing.
No, but you did make it seem like that. Oh, he didn't, you know, he shouldn't. He didn't know to walk away. He knew that. He knew he could have did that. If you can calculate something like that, if you can be that diabolical that you're going to put that out there in display, you thought that out.
Again,
you thought that out.
He obviously not that smart. I think he was being emotional and just moving in anger.
The way he played that thing, man, he played to the camera. He played the way. If you could look at the video, he was playing the camera.
Because he made himself look a little silly in regards.
Bingo! That's my point. When you disrespect your parents, you disrespect yourself.
It didn't make sense. Not that he was. Like,
that's my point. When you disrespect somebody else, to me, you disrespect yourself, and that's exactly what he did. He did.
I think that's where he was silly at.
I mean, but they both were. So my point is, as somebody, and the parents, it should have been on the parents first. You're right. The mom and the dad should have had enough respect for their son, regardless of how he was acting, to just shut it down. We'll talk about this later. We're not going to be public. Ain't going to be out there, you know. And they were disrespectful because now they're trying to embarrass him, talk about this stuff. He's the passive. They were disrespectful. But he also had a choice to just say, okay, I'm not going to keep responding to this, because after a while it got redundant. And after a while, it was just about hurting each other. It wasn't even more about a difference. If you watch the thing, by the time they got halfway in, it was like, okay, now we're just going to try to hurt each other. I'm going to say this, and you said that it was true because the sister backed it up. Mm-hmm. Then they came back with something totally irrelevant, off topic, but just to embarrass him. So that's when you get in that situation, nobody's going to win. Nobody's going to win.
Yeah. And I think it's more so like I believe in respect, or kind of one of those things that's learned. Probably, lean more in that direction versus kind of it being earned.
So you two people got to learn not to steal?
Yeah. Some people think it's okay for survival purposes. They're like, oh, I can steal this store is okay. Black Lives Matter. We're doing this just cause. Yeah, for real. Like when it's ever people did think it's wrong.
Come on, no, they know it's wrong. They may think they try to justify
hurting the
it.
business.
They try to just, but that's another thing. But you're hurting the black business when you're in your neighborhood and you robbing the store in your community, or you're robbing people, so now no stores will come into your community. It's not just about you.
I think people with more moral compass is just way off, and
I agree.
That's why I probably take that approach or thought process that I take in a lot of instances. But I do feel like people.
But I guarantee you, if you got in a serious conversation with some of your friends who made some poor choices, an honest, open conversation, they know they made bad choices.
Different group of people.
No, you're not hearing what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. But the ones who didn't know they made bad choices, they may not come out be blasting all over them. But if you sat down and got them in a real conversation, they admit they made a bad choice. They may not admit it publicly, but they'll say, because I know when I deal with some of the folk in rehab, when you engage them in conversation, they know they did something wrong. They may try to justify, I did this because of that. And because of that, I did this, and that's why it's not wrong. But they know it was it did. They justify it. But they know. They know.
So there's no accountability, really.
That's what Wayne said. Wayne said there's no accountability. And I agree with that. But I also think that somebody always has to figure out, okay, and I know y'all hate when I do this, but what's this going to cost me? If I do this, and I go back to what I say, if I'm dating somebody and I'm watching them disrespect their mom, this ain't going to work out too well, because I know the level of respect I got from my mom and my dad. And how do I know? There's no guarantee they will, they won't, but how are they going to go off for my parents the first time something happened? Now we got a problem. So I just, I think that's important, man. I think we keep making excuses, not you, but we keep making excuses for, why something happened 40 years ago. So this kid is being disrespectful. Or this at some point, and I don't know the age, at some point you do get exposed to something that's different, and you have to make a choice. You got to make a choice, man. Do I continue down this pattern? Or do I just move on? We talked about this on the call, Monday night call, about grace. And the thing about grace is you forgive and you move on. Doesn't mean you forget, but you're not trying to get revenge. You're not trying to get even, man. You got to let it go. And this is the perfect example where I think you give your parents grace. I get it. You know what? We ain't going to be best friends. We ain't going to father, son, dad, and all that kind of stuff. But you know what? I'm not going to stoop to that level where I'm cursing you out and beating you up and spitting. I'm not going to go there. Because I respect me too much for that. So I think at some point you got to kind of come to that, man. And I guess you're right. Some people never do.
Yeah, I think it's like one of those things that maybe needs to be discussed and talked about a little bit more. Maybe we don't see. For real, I don't think we see or talk or have enough conversations about one, what respect looks like. Why it's important to be respectful to kind of adult figures and your parents and just people in general. I don't think it's something that's talked about.
I like how it impacts the future. I do like that aspect of when you grow up, like when you go to a job, you got to respect your boss, different stuff like that, respect others. So I did like that piece.
Yeah. I mean, that definitely is, people can turn it off and on, the respect thing. Because I feel like, don't want to necessarily probably change the subject or take it to a whole nother level because we could talk for more time. But there's definitely people who, I can be respectful to my boss because I know there's consequences there. Like I know they're gonna fire me, or I know that I can get paid from this. But there's other people who, if they feel like there's no consequences, then why do I feel like I need to respect you? That's the thing. So.
Respect is not about what's in it. Respect somebody is not about what's in it for me. And if you want to make it like that, it's about maintaining self-respect. I'm cursing my mom out, cursing my dad out. it reflects on me.
I agree, but again, I didn't want to take us down another rabbit hole and kind of open up another conversation because I could have been specific and gave a real good example that would have did that. But yeah, I think this is a great topic, great conversation, and I think we do need to just talk about again, like respect, what that means, what that looks like, why it's important, and why it's important to have like examples of that in your life, or to look for those examples, or put yourself in those places where you can learn some different things and be around different people. But Dad, think you got anything else you wanted to wrap us up on? I see you trying to get our song. It doesn't look like it's going to play for us tonight.
We got
This song.
No theme song tonight, man.
But we do want to thank you guys again for tuning in and watching Above Average Black Man. As always, hopefully, you had a good time listening to us, and it was a conversation that has empowered you and uplifted you, and then you can get out there and share the word, Dev.
Yeah, like, follow, subscribe. Definitely share, with your friends, your family. You like the episode, share it on whatever platform you have. Spread the news.
yeah. Spread the news. It's so pleasant. It's just come right in. But again, thank you everybody for tuning in. Join us next week. See you guys. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Yeah, man. Same bat channel, same time next week, man. Thank you guys for listening. We thank you guys for comments, and we will see you next week. We got some topics you want us to hit up. Let me know, man. We'll get it going. All right? See you guys later.
Peace out, everybody. Should I hum the song?
Yeah, you can. I can't get off my phone. It's so bad.